It's now time to talk about a mystery. Something weird has found under the depths of the oceans.
Could be a rock, could be a sea monster.
What's the shocking truth behind the video that turned a quiet fishing harbor into the center of a major crime? A lone fishing boat was the last confirmation of a fisherman's worst fears. Nobody in the middle of the ocean could help you. The calm waters hid a secret so bizarre, it has propelled an average man into an unthinkable mystery. Now, as environmental concerns intersect with local folklore, Mato, along with a group of unsuspecting fishermen, is plunged into a situation that is as alarming as it is terryfing. Join us as we delve into the story that has everyone asking, what lies beneath the tranquil surface of our oceans? Chapter 1. What the hell is happening? Earthquake in the sea. One day, a man named Mato, who lived in a small town, decided to take his camera to the harbor to film a peaceful morning. He had no idea that this simple choice would turn out to be a life-changing event. Mato was just having fun, capturing the quietness of the early morning, when something unusual in the water caught his eye. At first, he couldn't figure out what it was, but as he kept looking, he realized it was something large and frightening. He was so amazed by what he saw that if he hadn't recorded it, no one would have believed his story. Mato was an ordinary person who enjoyed recording different scenes. He never expected that his casual visit to the harbor that morning would lead to an incredible discovery. The morning was still young, everything around was quiet, and the water was smooth. That's when he spotted something odd peeking out of the water. For Mato, this was supposed to be a typical day, just filming the usual things. But unexpectedly, his normal morning turned into an extraordinary adventure. He never thought his hobby of recording videos would lead him to an exciting new experience. The harbor, usually a calm and uneventful place, suddenly became the backdrop for a thrilling find. What Mato noticed in the water was small, brown, and appeared to have scales. He had never seen anything like it before and decided to zoom in with his camera for a closer look. The object, which initially seemed just a small, odd thing floating in the water, now completely captured Mato's attention. However, he didn't realize that this tiny discovery was part of a much bigger mystery hidden beneath the surface of the water. Recording this strange floating object turned out to be very important later, but at that moment, Mato was just excited to capture something different during his peaceful walk by the harbor. He tried to get a clearer view by zooming in with his camera, but no matter how much he zoomed in, the true nature of the object remained unclear. Just as Mato began filming this peculiar brown item, he heard a noise coming from the direction of the main cabin on a nearby large fishing boat. Curious, Mato pointed his camera toward the noise and saw 6 fishermen waking up. These fishermen were likely getting ready for their day's work. Mato called out to them, pointing at the mysterious object in the water. The fishermen saw Mato but didn't understand what he was trying to show them. They thought he was just saying good morning and continued with their preparations, tying ropes and getting their equipment ready for their journey. However, their routine was suddenly interrupted by a loud noise. While the fishermen were surprised, Mato had a feeling about where the sound came from. Mato quickly raised his camera again and started looking for the mysterious brown object in the water. He found it again quickly, but now something was different. He noticed that the object wasn't just floating still. It was moving slightly on the surface. This small movement on top of the water suggested there was something more happening underneath. Mato watched with increasing concern as the entire fishing boat began to rock, disturbed by something unseen below. The fishermen on board were clearly startled by their boat's sudden movement. What started as a mild rocking turned into a violent swaying, throwing the whole ship into turmoil. The deck turned into a scene of chaos as the fishermen stumbled and grabbed onto the railings to stay upright. Mato could see the fear and confusion on their faces as they tried to figure out what was causing the boat to move like this. "What the hell is going on, guys?" one of the fishermen yelled, his voice filled with fear. Mato stayed quiet at first, focused on filming the scene in the water. He pointed his camera again, hoping to find out what was causing the chaos. But when the camera focused, Mato himself became scared. The once tiny brown shape had grown much bigger, now several feet long. This change seemed to explain the loud noise they had heard. The object must have hit the boat, causing the dramatic movement. Mato was full of questions about the now huge brown object. What was it? Could it be hiding more secrets under the water? But first, he knew he had to warn the fishermen about the possible danger. He put down his camera and shouted to them, "Look overboard, guys! Check out what's floating in the water below." Hearing Mato's warning, the fishermen cautiously moved to the edge of the boat and looked overboard to see the mysterious object that was causing all the commotion. Things get strange for Mato and the fishermen as they see something in the water that they can't explain. Chapter 2. An alien visitor under the waves. "What on earth could that be?" one of the puzzled fishermen exclaimed. The group was completely baffled, looking towards Mato for an explanation. But Mato was just as stunned and speechless as they were. The mysterious object in the water had captivated everyone's attention, and it seemed it wasn't finished showing off yet. Only moments after the men had begun to observe it closely, the object surged upwards once more, causing the surrounding water to become turbulent and filled with bubbles. "Look out!" shouted someone, as the whole ship began to sway dangerously from side to side, throwing everyone into a state of alarm. It felt as though a gigantic force was attempting to shove the fishing boat aside. Mato, determined not to miss any detail of this bewildering phenomenon, quickly adjusted his camera's focus. The day was turning out to be far from ordinary, filled with unexpected events that would undoubtedly alter his life forever. When the chaos in the water eventually subsided and the splashing came to a halt, both the crew and Mato were left in utter disbelief. The small, mysterious object that had been floating earlier had disappeared, replaced by something much larger and now completely visible above the waterline. The sight left everyone on board with their mouths agape and hands trembling, unable to comprehend the full magnitude of what they were seeing. "It's a creature," declared the head fisherman, breaking the silence. But what kind of creature it was, none of the fishermen could definitively say. Now fully emerged from the depths, the creature was a sight to behold, measuring an astonishing 60 feet in length. Its body was primarily brown, adorned with lighter spots scattered across its back, and adorned with what appeared to be small, sharp spikes. Mato's confusion only deepened, prompting him to question the fishermen if they had ever encountered such a beast before. The men peered over the side of their vessel, taking in every inch of the colossal animal from their elevated vantage point. Despite their years of experience and countless encounters with the sea's mysteries, they all shook their heads in response to Mato's inquiry. For many of them, the sea had been their home and workplace for their entire lives, exposing them to all manner of oddities and marvels. However, this particular sight was unlike anything they had ever encountered. The look of bewilderment and fear on their faces was unmistakable, mirroring Mato's own feelings of astonishment and apprehension. The situation was turning increasingly tense, and the creature's presence was something the crew members definitely didn't want to engage with, not even from a safe distance. However, the immense sea creature seemed indifferent to the men's desire to escape. It was not finished with its interaction with the old, worn-out fishing boat. The water around the creature began churning again, signaling its approach. The large brown beast maneuvered itself closer, creating a wide circle around the vessel. This unexpected motion set off another wave of fear among the crew, stirring up a fresh round of chaos on the boat. In their growing fear, the crew members were desperate to distance themselves from the mysterious marine animal. Acting on impulse and the urgent need for safety, the head fisherman commanded his crew to lift the anchor and make haste into the open sea. The crew responded with a unified "Aye, Captain," echoing the familiar scenes from adventure films, and quickly began to work together in a frantic rush to escape the unsettling situation. In the middle of the commotion, Mato remained focused on his task. He continued to film, his camera steadfastly aimed at the giant creature. Stationed on the shore, he felt a relative sense of safety compared to the panic-stricken fishermen. The footage he was capturing was nothing short of extraordinary, filled with the intense drama of the unfolding events. The anticipation of what would happen next kept Mato on edge, his nerves tingling with anxiety and curiosity. However, Just as Mato was immersing himself in capturing what he thought would be another dramatic moment, he was taken aback by a startling realization. Something was amiss with the gigantic sea creature. As Mato narrowed his eyes, focusing intently through his camera lens, he noticed that the creature's behavior was peculiarly out of place. Unlike other sea creatures that typically flee at the first sign of disturbance, especially from the noise of a boat's engine, this one remained eerily serene, too serene for what would be considered normal. Its movements were unnaturally calm, almost deliberate, as it glided smoothly from side to side, showing no signs of agitation or urgency to escape. This calmness was bizarre, especially as the boat's engine started up, preparing to leave the safety of the harbor. Mato watched, perplexed and intrigued by the creature's strangely composed demeanor, wondering what could explain its unusual tranquility in such a bustling environment. Mato steps up to find out what's really going on with the strange creature under the water. Chapter 3. We need to go into the water. Chasing the truth. Mato stepped aboard the boat and raised his voice loudly to the fishermen. He urged them with great emphasis to stop what they were doing. Please halt everything immediately, he shouted with all the strength he had. His voice had to compete with the loud noise of the boat's engine, but he somehow managed to get the attention of the head fisherman. The man, who was wearing a uniform, turned his head quickly, looking at Mato with eyes that were wide open in surprise. I need you to shut off your engine. I have something very important to tell you, Mato said with persistence. This time, the main fisherman listened and blew his whistle loudly, giving a clear command. After hearing the signal, the rest of the crew, which included 5 other members, quickly followed the order, and together they turned off the engine of the boat. Mato was fascinated as he watched the team work together so well. He also took this chance to record how the crew worked in an organized manner. Once the engine was quiet, the 6 fishermen gathered around the side of the boat, ready to listen to what Mato had to say. What's going on, sir? Asked the crew from the boat. Mato then encouraged the fishermen to look more closely at the creature in the sea. He pointed towards the animal in the water and directed the fishermen's eyes to its tail. Mato pointed out that the creature's movements were not normal. Look, its tail isn't moving from side to side like most fish do, nor is it moving up and down. It's completely still, but the creature is still moving through the water. This isn't normal. The fishermen nodded, showing they understood that this was a strange situation, and they asked Mato what he thought was happening. With a smile, Mato shared that he wanted to try a simple experiment. He took out a selfie stick that could be adjusted in length from his backpack, a tool he usually carried around but rarely used. However, today was different. It was the perfect tool for what he wanted to do. Mato attached his camera to the stick and carefully lowered the camera, which was waterproof, into the sea. He was sure the camera had captured something interesting, but he wasn't sure exactly what. So, there was a bit of nervousness as Mato pulled his camera out of the water to look at what it had recorded. And he had a good reason to be nervous, because when he looked at the footage, his face turned completely pale, as white as a ghost. The fisherman saw how shocked he looked and pressed him to explain what was on the camera, but Mato was too focused on the surprising images he saw on his camera screen to answer. After the video finished, Mato snapped out of his shock and came back to reality. He held his video camera tightly, and for the first time since he saw the strange creature in the sea, he moved from his spot. He walked quickly and with a sense of urgency down the dock until he reached where the fisherman's boat was tied up. He had something very important to show them. The fishermen saw him coming and helped him by holding the ladder steady as he climbed onto their boat. Once he was on the boat, Mato didn't waste any time. He immediately showed the video on his camera to the head fisherman and the rest of the crew. At first, the video was blurry and hard to make out as the camera adjusted to the light and focus. But then the image became clear, and the crew was just as shocked as Mato had been. "We need to go into the water," said the lead fisherman, his voice full of urgency. His crew agreed and quickly went to get the captain's diving suit from storage. They worked together to put the suit on the captain, making sure it fit him well and was safe for diving. The captain then jumped into the sea without any hesitation, diving near the huge creature that had caught their attention. The crew stood on the deck, watching with a mix of hope and worry. After a few tense minutes, the lead fisherman came back out of the water, his face showing disappointment and sadness. Mato, seeing the sad looks on the faces of the crew, realized they had expected this outcome. The captain, taking off his diving mask, said, "It's bad news, everyone. Very sad indeed." The fisherman looked down, silently accepting the sad truth, while Mato stood among them, confused. He knew a lot about whales, but this creature didn't look like any whale he knew. It had spikes and was colored in a way that was not usual for whales. Despite Mato's confusion, the captain was sure of what they saw. He explained that it was a small sperm whale, but unfortunately, it was dead. Mato looked puzzled, so the captain explained more. He said that the whale's movement was caused by air trapped under its skin, which made the body move in strange ways with the ocean currents. This explanation answered some of Mato's questions, but he was still troubled, especially by how the fishermen seemed to have seen this kind of thing before and were resigned to it. After finding out the truth, Mato and the fishermen see the sad reality of what's happening in the sea. Chapter 4. A victim ripped apart. Mato stood among the crew with a heavy and saddened heart and asked them, "Why does the sight of the whale upset you all so much?" The captain answered him. He sounded not just sad, but also very distressed. He explained that their sadness wasn't just because the whale was dead, but because of the sad way it had died. The chief fisherman added more details. He said that the whale hadn't died a natural death. "Usually, we don't see whales with spikes on them and in such an unusual brown color," the captain said with a serious tone. He then shared that the whale had died because of an explosion. This explosion was so powerful that it had ripped apart the lower half of the whale. The top half of the whale was also badly damaged and changed in shape. "You can see its bones sticking out. That shows how bad it was," the captain said, pointing it out. Mato felt really upset by this. He felt sick as he looked at the dead whale in the water. "Who would do something so terrible?" Mato asked. He couldn't believe it and was horrified. The crew looked at each other as if they all knew something. Then one of them spoke. He hinted that they all had a scary suspicion about what had happened. "We weren't sure at first, but seeing this makes us believe the awful rumors we've been hearing," he said. After sharing this mysterious piece of information, the crew got ready to work together. They seemed driven by a common goal. Each person knew exactly what to do, and they quickly started the big job of getting the huge whale out of the water. Mato, feeling confused by their quick action, didn't feel right questioning the experienced fishermen. "We need to hurry!" shouted one of the crew as they all worked together. Through their teamwork, they managed to pull the enormous whale onto the ship in just 30 minutes. The men stood around the dead whale, looking closely at how badly it had been hurt by the explosion. Seeing such a sad and shocking scene was really tough. It affected everyone there, including Mato. The harsh truth of what had happened was right there on the deck for them to see. It was a moment that made everyone think seriously. For Mato, this was a turning point. He was about to find out the scary truth about how the whale had been so badly injured. Before they left, the crew looked out over the harbor water one more time. The water looked strangely calm, as if nothing bad had happened there with the whale. Mato was confused about why this had happened, and why there were such terrible explosions. Wanting to know more, he went to talk to the head fisherman. He introduced himself properly as Mato, and shared his confusion about what was going on. "Can you explain this to me, please?" he asked sincerely. The captain then told Mato a bit about himself. He owned the boat and had been sailing the sea for over 30 years. "We're really sad about the whale because it shows that someone is doing bad things in the sea that they shouldn't be," he explained, feeling very sad. He went on to say, "For a while now, we've been feeling strange shakes in the water when we're sailing. Our equipment that uses sound to detect things underwater has been picking up signals, but we didn't have any real proof until now." Mato, both interested and worried, asked how the whale's injuries were connected to the strange things they were feeling in the water. The captain then shared some worrying rumors that people who sail the sea had been talking about. secret fishing activities happening far away from the shore, using explosives to catch lots of sea animals. These careless ways of fishing catch a lot of fish quickly, but they are really bad for the places where sea animals live, he said sadly. Another crew member stressed how important their mission was. We need to find the people doing this, he said. Both Diego and Mato felt strongly about this. Mato, feeling moved by the cause, promised to help catch the people responsible for this awful thing. Together, they started the boat's engine again and headed out into the open sea. Once they were away from the harbor, Mato, feeling a strong sense of purpose, took the lead in calling the authorities. They needed all the help they could get to catch the criminals responsible for these horrible actions. Soon, fast police boats met up with the sturdy fishing boat. The police officers, in their official uniforms, got on the boat and saw the dead whale for the first time. The seriousness of the situation was clear to everyone. They all silently promised to seek justice for the sea animals that had been hurt so badly. Mato and his friends start a big mission to find out who is hurting the ocean. Chapter 5: Whispers of the Deep, Tracing Shadows Underwater. The police eagerly gathered around Mato and Diego, requesting a detailed account of their discovery and their suspicions regarding the tragic event. Mato and Diego, despite their anxiety, recounted their observations and theories with as much clarity as they could muster. Once their briefing concluded, the pursuit for the perpetrators was immediately underway. The anticipation was palpable among the crew and officers. They knew they were on the brink of a significant breakthrough. Indeed, it wasn't long before their efforts bore fruit. Just as they finished their discussion, the boat's sonar equipment registered an unprecedented anomaly, a massive disturbance in the underwater environment. This was no ordinary fluctuation. The readings were off the charts, suggesting a recent and proximate explosion. A silent consensus was reached among the group. They understood this could be their only opportunity to apprehend the culprits behind these heinous acts. In response, Captain Diego, with a sense of urgency, signaled his crew with a sharp blow of his whistle, directing them to head further into the depths of the ocean. The logic was sound. The perpetrators had managed to evade capture by operating in remote, less patrolled areas of the sea. As they ventured further, Captain Diego's intuition was proven correct when another piece of the puzzle revealed itself, confirming they were on the right path. Both the law enforcement vessel and the fisherman's boat, propelled by determination, advanced towards the origin of the disturbances. The sonar data was a clear indicator, yet it was the visual evidence that solidified their course, a phenomenon none of them could ignore. As Mato continued to document the unfolding journey, a series of waves began to emerge abruptly in front of their vessel. Initially minor, the waves swiftly grew in stature and intensity. Amid this chaos, Mato, with an eye for detail, noticed an unusual activity in the distance. Through the lens of his camera, enhanced by its zoom capability, he discerned a significant waterspout erupting on the distant horizon, a telltale sign of another underwater explosion. Alerting the crew and officers, his observation was quickly verified. Such a spectacle was unmistakably the aftermath of an explosive event. Without a moment's hesitation, Diego accelerated their pursuit, the ships cutting through the waves towards the epicenter of the disturbance. For Mato, this was a leap into the unknown, far beyond the bounds of his everyday experiences. He had led a life far removed from such perilous undertakings, with his most adventurous feat being a climb on a moderately sized hill. Now, amidst a high-stakes chase on the open sea, he found himself part of a critical mission to apprehend dangerous criminals. As the boat drew nearer, Mato started to notice the clear signs of the damage that the underwater blasts had caused. The sea was littered with countless dead fish that bobbed to the surface, creating a somber scene around their vessel. But the devastation wasn't limited to the marine life alone. Massive pieces of the coral reef, once vibrant and teeming with life, were now broken and lifeless, drifting up to greet the sunlight in a dismal display. The sight was overwhelming, especially since they were still a good distance from their actual destination. Mato couldn't help but express his dismay. "This is terrible. he uttered, as he brushed away the tears rolling down his cheeks. The sight of such senseless destruction filled Mato with profound sadness and disbelief. He couldn't fathom how people could prioritize their temporary gains over the invaluable marine ecosystem. "We must find those responsible," Mato declared with a mix of anger and determination. Although Mato was aware that he couldn't physically contribute to capturing the perpetrators, he realized he held a powerful tool in his hands, his camera. He decided to document everything he could, intending to provide this footage to the authorities. This could be a significant contribution, offering concrete evidence of the illegal activities that had taken place. This realization gave Mato a sense of purpose amidst the chaos. Despite having recorded quite a bit already, he felt compelled to capture more. He aimed his camera at the lifeless fragments of coral drifting by their boat and then at the tragic sight of the dead fish floating on the water's surface. Capturing these heart-wrenching images was difficult, but Mato knew that documenting the truth was crucial. He believed that by sharing these images, he could help in the fight against the environmental crimes that had shattered the peace of the underwater world. Now, Mato's brave actions bring him to a big court case, leading to a surprise ending. Chapter 6: Waves of Justice, The Lost Boat's Tale. Mato's camera captured the critical moment. A fishing boat, previously unnoticed, now in the lens. The law swooped in, boarding with precision. Mato, with permission, filmed it all, safely from a distance. The officers quickly arrested the crew and found a shocking amount of fish in the hold. The crew denied any wrongdoing, but their lies fell apart when hidden explosives were discovered on board. Mato's footage captured every detail. A week later, the trial began. The fishermen, now defendants, in orange jumpsuits and handcuffs, faced the court. Mato, with his crucial video evidence, was a key witness. The fishermen's confidence faded as Mato's recordings played, clearly showing their crimes. The judge praised Mato's work before declaring the fishermen guilty with a final strike of the gavel. After the trial, Mato unexpectedly became a celebrity. His friend's call brought the news. Mato, the hero, was on the front page. His footage, especially the image of a dead whale, highlighted the environmental disaster. The article praised Mato's bravery and quick thinking, recognizing him for exposing a major illegal fishing operation. Mato's bravery sparked environmental awareness in the community. His actions led to local initiatives against ecological disasters and drew attention from major environmental groups. Mato, once just a bystander with a camera, became a symbol of change and the power of individual action. Despite his sudden fame, Mato stayed humble, speaking briefly at environmental events and leaving the detailed discussions to the experts. His story was a reminder that heroism doesn't require expertise, just the courage to act when it counts. The court's verdict against the fisherman was severe, a hefty fine and 15 years in prison, the maximum penalty. This unanimous decision, fueled by Mato's undeniable evidence, was a stand against environmental harm and a warning to others. It was a victory for Mato, the local fishermen, and marine conservationists everywhere. Is what Mato captured on his camera a mere freak of nature? Or is there a deeper, darker environmental crisis lurking beneath? What do you think about this unexpected maritime mystery? Share your thoughts and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.